Dan, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for making the time to chat. I know we don't jump on often just because things are rolling pretty smooth on the back end, but we have been working, I think now for around 2 years. So I just thought I'd have you on and kind of just talk a little bit about your experience. So could you, I guess, just briefly introduce yourself and talk about sort of King Sailfish and the products that you sell?
Sure. Yeah. My name's Daniel Myers. I'm the owner and president of King Sailfish Mounts. We're the largest marine taxidermist in the world, and we're actively growing and getting into different verticals as well. Our company was founded roughly 30 years ago in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and now we've got two locations in Louisiana, and Florida, and we do in between 3 and 5 thousand fish mounts a year.
That's amazing. The cool thing about your business, Dan, is a lot of people don't know this, but when we first started Blossom, formerly as an agency about 4 years ago, our like niche was like sustainable brands exclusively, and it was great
Wow.
for the first year. We worked with a ton of different brands, but having worked with you about 2 years after sort of the founding, it was just a really cool moment because it's a cool product. It's something that's out of the ordinary, and it's got that really dope conservative sort of twist to it, where you've gotten shout outs from the Billfish Foundation and a bunch of different things. How does it differ from like traditional taxidermy? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. The number one differentiator is that you don't have to kill the fish. So if a customer has a picture of a fish, we'll take that picture and then we'll make them a replica of that fish. So over the last 30 years, we've been able to, have one fish, take that specimen, turn it into a mold for every fish in every size, building up a library of molds that's, over 7,000. And we do, in between 200 and 300 species on a pretty regular basis. So if somebody goes out and catches a fish and gets a picture, there's a high probability that we've got a fish blank and mold that is close to that size. And then we'll take that picture and we'll authenticate the actual mold that we have and make it their fish or as close as humanly possible. So it allows anglers to let their fish go, let it live another day, help keep populations strong. And like you said, we work with Billfish Foundation, IGFA, lots of different partners out there, conservation partners to, keep things going. So it's been, a huge credit to billfish populations in particular. Back in the day, people would kill sailfish here in Florida just to hang them on the wall. And when Raymond Douglas, the founder of King Sailfish, started doing what we're doing, it really started preserving fish and made it to where they didn't have to kill them anymore. Because these fish, they're creatures and they're pretty much the same. They're cut from
Mm.
the same cloth. So their colors will change and they'll have, different markings, things like that. And we're able to replicate that on the mold that we've got in our library. So it's been a really cool deal.
And I think it's one of the finest examples of like entrepreneurship where you're not necessarily reinventing the wheel, you're just doing something in your own unique way.
Yeah.
And King Sailfish Mounts is a pretty respectable size business. Can you talk a little bit about like what was it like before we started working together? I think you were sort of doing some stuff in-house, or I think we weren't doing email at all.
Yeah, yeah, we weren't really doing it at all. I mean, before I started working with you guys, I would describe it as stressful, really tough. We didn't know what we were doing. I probably bought a subscription to every email service out there. I'd get started with it. I'd get one or two sent. I'd mess it up completely. I'd get mad because I couldn't get the, pictures right or whatever. And then trying to just, manage the customer side, get the flows working properly. All of that is just a lot, and it was something that I definitely needed to have help from some professionals with. So you guys have come in and handled all of that for us, and it's been a breath of fresh air, and it's brings a level of professionalism to the business that we definitely didn't have before. So because we've been trying to go from a mom and pop business that literally was founded in a garage to a multi-million-dollar operation that we fish, we ship fish globally now. So all of the mainly the email service that you guys have helped with has really helped us reach out and touch all of these different customers and stay top of mind with them, which has been invaluable.
Yeah, in all honesty, this is one of our cooler case studies that I'm most particularly proud of, just because we work with a ton of brands. Like we work with eight-figure, nine-figure brands that already have email, but we really just want to push the limits and optimize. And then there's some brands where, like yours, where we virtually had zero email and SMS retention marketing in place, and we came in and we were able to scale pretty rapidly, generate six figures in the first couple months working together, and I think over like 30% of attributed email revenue from Klaviyo, which is amazing. And I'm kind of curious, were we sort of like the first engagement and partner that you took on with email and SMS in general?
Absolutely, you were. And, I've worked with a couple different firms doing paid ads, that sort of things. And they would, dip their toe in it, mess with it a little bit. And I figured out pretty quick that I needed, an absolute, just focused effort on that. Because when somebody buys a fish mount, they usually have some kind of bookmark in life. Like, their kid caught a fish, their dad caught a fish, they caught a fish, and historically they thought they needed that fish, right? And they needed the fish to go to actually get it mounted. So it's not something that, in the back of a sportsman's mind, it's like, oh, I could mount a fish whenever. So I knew that email would be effective because we're reminding people that you could have caught a fish 25 years ago. I mean, we could mount Christopher Columbus's fish if we had a picture of it, right?
Yeah.
And or even if we just had a description, honestly. So, knowing that we could get that message out there, I knew there was a lot of upside to the business, and I needed some professional to help deliver that message and get it out. And I've done a fantastic job.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for the kind words. And I'm kind of curious, like when we first started talking together, what was it, I guess, about our conversation? Because I know we originally did an audit and sort of laid out like a proposal for how we could actually, get your email and SMS where it needs to be. But what was it about that first interaction that sort of like made you comfortable and feel like, okay, like these are definitely the partners to move with?
Well, first and foremost, you knew what you were talking about, and I could tell that you had you understood the background of where I was coming from, and you more importantly understood where I was trying to go, which is really important. It wasn't just a bunch of buzzwords and a bunch of typical marketing speak. It was more focused on what we were doing and trying to hit the bookmarks that would make a difference for us. And I could just tell that you meant business, if that makes any sense. I knew that you were serious about what you were doing, and the platforms you guys use were the same as us. Having a Slack channel is great for me because I use Slack here at King Sailfish, and just being able to stay in sync with you guys on a real time basis all the time. And another thing too is you're super responsive. I never have to wait a long time to hear back from you guys, so I appreciate all of that. And I could tell too. I could also just tell you guys were great people, which I don't work with people that aren't. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Number
it's kind
one
of
rule in business, right?
exactly.
So obviously you mentioned Slack, you mentioned a little bit of back and forth with the team and things like this. Can you, in just like one sentence, describe what it has been, how it's been working with the team? I know you're talking to Ange and some of the team members. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I could just do it in one word, seamless. I always tell people, you guys are great people. I'm sure it'd be fun to hang out. But in business, anything where I don't have to do it is a big deal, especially at this stage in, our growth process. So, set it and forget it would be another great one too. I mean, so you guys have gotten to where you're handling it. And all I'm really doing is making sure that the marketing sounds like, something that I want the voice of the business to sound like. And nobody could really do that, but you guys are pretty close, So with fishing, we've got to sometimes make sure that like slang and slogan sounds right.
Hmm.
But other than that, like you guys are hitting it. And then another thing too is the platforms we use. Klaviyo is fantastic. You've got really super easy to use dashboards. They plug and play with Shopify. So I always know where everything is in real time. And another great thing is that, if there has ever been an issue or something stops working because of one of these platforms, y'all are usually in front of it before I am. So, I mean, seamless would be the word I use.
Amazing. And I love hearing that too, just because I've also been on the receiving end of working with a partner and agency for our business as well. And I'm always like, man, like the good communication, the making sure that everybody's on top of everything is such a huge thing for us. So to hear,
Yeah.
that reciprocated is awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess my last question for you is if someone were on the fence watching this and considering working with us at Blossom, what would you tell them?
Everything to me, I tell people all the time at work, everything's a math problem, right? So when you're trying to run a business, whether you're super detailed and you're going over balance sheets and P&Ls, or it could be, a snowball stand down the street. You got to make more, you got to make more than you spend, right? You guys have a system figured out where, it costs X amount of dollars a month, and that investment is the least of my concerns, right? So when you look at what the investment is and to what, the actual return on it is, it's fantastic, right? And to me, so much of marketing these days is about a model that is, you make X and we make Y and blah, blah, blah. And that just every single time turns me off, right? Because it just turns into a situation situation, it becomes unsustainable. And then you'll have different people get involved, and you've got all of this turnover, and and the agencies can't keep the same person on your account. And with you guys, I've never had to worry about that. And even if you put different people on the account, the processes you have in place are seamless to where they just plug and play, and nothing changes on my end. So I would tell anybody interested in working with you that they could call me personally, and I could answer questions for them, or that they're not making a mistake.
I love that. Thank you so much for the kind words. And once again, I really appreciate you hopping on and having all
Yeah,
these mic drop moments. So thank you so much, Stan. Looking forward to continuing to help King Sailfish grow, scaling the business, and just know we're always here for you, man.
yeah, same here. I appreciate you guys.
Cheers.